Hey, how's it going? This is Andre Comeau, and you are listening to the Nothing's Shocking podcast. Woo!
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any pod catchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, soon to be coming back to downtown Davenport, Iowa, I believe in July. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Andre Comeau,
original cast member of The Real World.
Yeah, that's a lot of people might know him from that. He's also was in a band called Reigndance.
Yeah, early 90s rock band.
Promoting his own a new solo album called Clean Break that just came out in May.
Yeah, we're excited to bring you this interview tonight, so let's get right to it.
All right, good night.
Good night. Andre, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Andre, this is going to be fun to talk to you tonight.
Hey there, nice to meet.
Well, hey, Thanks for doing this kind of last minute with the change of schedule and everything. But COVID-19 has handcuffed the music industry. You've been busy with new music during the pandemic. Can you talk more about your new music during the pandemic that you created?
Sure. Well, so we released an EP in 2020, and we're fully planning on doing, a lot of shows and some touring to support it. And then, when the pandemic hit, that changed everything. Mm-hmm. So we just decided, to go right back into the studio and start working on the next. That was, I'd always intended on. I'd love to, keep a steady stream of new music. I've got, tons of songs. So that really wasn't an issue. But I wasn't really intending on going right back into the studio. I wanted to give the songs on the EP a little more of a chance to, be on their own and sort of, have a little more life. But that just, crazy times call for, crazy measures. And so we just went right back into the studio and started working on the next.
Fantastic. But one more question from me, and then I'm going to hand it off to Jeff, though. That being said, you released your EP in 2020. Kind of a risky time to be releasing new music. Did you kind of feel like you were kind of under the gun a little bit trying to release an EP right in the middle of pandemic times?
Well, no. I mean, we had finished it and we were planning on releasing it. The album or the EP originally had a March 2020 release, and I mean it was finished. It was mastered by January, so I wanted to get this thing out, and we were just sort of taking our time with the release of it, and then when March rolled around, well, then things started to get pretty dark as far as COVID, and so we held on to it for a couple of months, thinking hoping that the situation would clear itself up. Certainly, none of us expected to be in lockdown for essentially almost a full year. And so, after about 3-4 months, I was pretty desperate just to get it out. I didn't want to sit on it any longer. I can't. There was just no way that I was going to just sit on it and plan on releasing it, at some undetermined date in the future. Because after it had been, 6 months that I had it finished, and it wasn't, out yet. I was just like, okay, well, let's just get this thing out. I don't care if it's, I can't, with the hopes that it would have cleared up and that we could have at least done some touring. But that, that just wasn't to be. So, to me, as an artist, I just feel, you just need to release it and, and move on. So that's what I did.
Yeah. The 5-song EP was called Wrong Within. Can you talk a little bit about the first song, Firebird, and a little bit behind the writing process?
Sure. I wrote that song a while back. It's got I played that a bit with my folk band Rouge, but I don't think that we were really doing it justice. When I came up with a new treatment for it for the rock band, and really think that it found its place in the rock genre much better than the more up-tempo sort of banjo-led River Rouge version. So I was, and it really does. The lyrics are always what really, that's the most important aspect of songwriting to me. And I've always been fond of the lyrics of that track. And because I would say that I don't think that I think that the lyric really lends itself to more of the rock stylings than the folk band. So yeah, it was definitely a real good match. Just transforming that into more of a rock arrangement, and it just worked so well as an opening track. The first line of the song is blacklisted, whited out, not the boy you forgot about, and it really sort of is a great opening line for an album, given my own checkered past. So I was thrilled to give that one a little more life.
At the end of May, you'll be releasing Clean Break, a full-length album. Can you talk more about the writing and the recording process of this upcoming album?
Well, sure. So we, when we had little choice but to, go back in and just start recording a new one, I sort of, I have a large catalog of songs, and some of the songs are brand new, things that I just wrote, and some of them I've had around for a while that I may have demoed, I may not have demoed them, and it's a real collection of material that I think works really well together. The title track, "Clean Break," is a new song that is very up tempo, has more of a modern rock edge. I think that was one of the things that this new record has which is a bit of a departure from our last one, which was more sort of, maybe bluesier and moodier. The new album definitely is much more up-tempo with more of a modern rock edge to it. And that was a bit of a conscious decision to be a little more on the up-tempo side. And lyrically, some of the tracks on the new record are very up as well, positive, non-specific, as well as, but of course there are the brooding, darker tracks as well. I mean, that's where, as a writer, I mean, I think that most writers do a lot of their best work when they're in their, sort of serious and darker places to conjure up lyrics from. But yeah, no, it was definitely a conscious effort to be on the more up-tempo and upside of things.
This is a kind of a gear change. I'm going to change gears on here. But you've had the luxury of releasing an EP. You now are going to be releasing a full-length LP. The EP format has always kind of fascinated me in some weird way. I don't really know why. With that being said, with the industry being what it is on tangible sales, what are your thought processes of releasing an EP opposed to releasing an LP? Where's your head at when it comes to, releasing an extra play?
Yeah, the difference.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny how the business has changed, and I'm a fan of albums. But I'm a dinosaur. I think that. I grew up on albums and album rock with album cuts. Yeah. Great songs on the record that were never singles, songs that I hold dear to my heart that the average listener doesn't know from these famous bands. Exactly. I mean, those are the songs that I gravitate towards. Those are the songs that I love. But here it is many years later, and the album is a thing of the past. It's a relic. Yep. And right now, the album isn't even regarded very highly. It's all about singles right now. It's almost much closer to how it used to be in the at the beginning of rock and roll, like in the 50s, where it was just singles. Yeah. That's much closer to how the business is right now. You asked about the difference between an EP and an album and the impression. So I've always been a fan of EPs because often the album artist would release an EP and you'd get it much faster than an album.
Yes.
Yeah. You'd get it after only, maybe less than a year after their last full-length album. So the EP was like a quick, a real quick creative outlet for the artists as they were, plotting out their next album. Or maybe it was a live EP or a collection of covers or something like that. And that was, kind of, in many cases, the history of the EP. It was definitely something that wasn't taken as seriously as an album. And it's also a marketing thing. The record companies can't charge as much for an EP as they can an album. Mm-hmm. However, the cost of that EP, the actual production of the cost, we're talking about vinyl, that cost is still very high. Mm-hmm. So you're not as able to charge as much for that collection of fewer songs, but it still costs the company just as much to make an EP in the vinyl cost and all of the, the sleeve and everything, the pressing, all that costs the same, but they're not able to charge as much for it. So it's very much looked down upon in the business to release an EP because of the reward is much less. And so, but as I mentioned, I love the EP because I think it just gives the fan a little more, just more options. And as I mentioned, it's often, maybe B-sides or covers or things like that. So yeah, and an album, is much traditionally has been, much more of a serious endeavor. Back in my day, it would be, some people had concept albums even where they would release an entire album around a concept of some sort, and so yeah, I mean, and now here we are, in 2021 where people don't even care about albums; they just want the single, and isn't that sad? Because that's just
it is, truly
that's just one song, that's hardly a statement. It's hardly a creative statement, but I don't want to sound like the old man yelling at a cloud over here.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna ask you a little bit about your current band. Who else do you have joining you in your lineup?
Yeah. Well, I would. I'm produced by my drummer Darren Elpant. He owns a studio here on the east side of LA called Silver Lake Recording Studios, and he's someone that I've been playing with for many years since I moved to Los Angeles. And I've often either used his studio or used him as a drummer in many instances and in other projects. And so when back in 2016 I wrote a couple of rock songs that were just undeniably like rock tracks. I couldn't do anything with them with my folk band, and I had to put I started recording them with Darren, and we were like, okay, well, we're going to need to get a good bass player who gets the rock aesthetic for this. So we found a good bass player, and then basically we put a rock band together just to flesh out this handful of tracks.
Nice.
And then one thing led to another. We got a show, and then all of a sudden it became the dominant project in my musical life. And so that was a very natural, organic process. I put River Rouge on hiatus, and the rock band just became a natural the dominant project. Right now I'm playing with Darren on drums. Gary Wicks is a fantastic bass player here in Los Angeles that he is playing with us starting on this album. And then a great. I've also incorporated the help of a second guitar player on this album as well. The first EP was just me doing all the guitar. This time around, we've got Steve Dawson on second guitar, doing a lot of the solos, and he's a great addition. So they're all East Coasters. Darren's from Long Island. Steve is from Manhattan, and Gary is from Boston. So they're all, and I spent all that time on the East Coast. I'm from Detroit originally, but I definitely I've always considered what I do and have. Being that I kind of broke out of the New York Metro New York area, so it's definitely I feel like we are an East Coast band playing in LA.
Yeah.
Even though we've all been like local to LA for years and years, decades in some cases.
A few years back, you were a member of River Rouge. You kind of touched upon that, the folk-driven band. Can you talk a little bit more about your time in River Rouge, and is it still a ongoing band for yourself?
Yeah, no, I put River Rouge on hiatus back around 2015, 2016. We released the last thing we released. I mean, we put out 5 records here in LA to a somewhat apathetic Los Angeles audience. It was not. It was not. Not that it wasn't well received, because it was, but country music and Americana isn't the most popular genre of music in Los Angeles, and so I was definitely always fighting that. That kind of a thing. It was, we incorporated ourselves with the local. There's a very small scene of that here, and we were definitely doing that. But it was kind of, I don't want to say thankless, but it was fucking thankless. So, so yeah, when I put the rock band together and we got this great reaction right off the bat, great reaction from audiences, great reaction from the business, the industry. It was like, well, what the fuck have I been doing, spinning my wheels for the last 15 years, playing acoustic music here? I mean, like, this is what they want to hear, and this is where the love is. So, I put it on hiatus. I didn't intend on putting it on indefinite hiatus, but that's just how it went. Another thing about the River Rouge project was the band kept changing so much. There was, the first iteration of that band, River Rouge, they were all Texans, and it just so happened that all of the Texans moved back to Texas. They got to the stage in their lives where they wanted families and kids and everything, and so they all picked up and moved out of LA. LA is a difficult place to buy a home and to put roots down like that and raise children. And so they all went back to where their families were. And so, and at that point, River Rouge became very, almost, very fluid. There was just a constant influx of changing musicians and different elements. And so I lost that sort of stability, and that may have led to the, willingness to kind of throw my hands and go, well, I'm gonna do something else for a while.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess briefly talk to us a little bit about how the River Rouge got started. What made you decide to go from, because you were always known as the rocker guy, to getting into folk music?
Well, I'll tell you. So right around 2000, I don't know, maybe 2000, we'll say. I kind of really got out of what the rock scene was doing. I wasn't really fond of what was popular in rock music.
Yeah.
That whole rap rock hybrid didn't really do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the big acts of that era also really weren't, speaking to me. Everyone was trying to out extreme each other with how, the imagery, it was like, I'm trying to be politically careful here, because some of these people are my friends. I just, I think that the image became more important than the output, and so I wasn't really. I was just somewhat disillusioned with rock at the time, and coincidentally, I had I've always been a huge Bob Dylan fan.
Yeah.
And And it was through Dylan, my love for Bob Dylan, that I really got into folk and subsequently older country music like Hank Williams Sr. and the greats Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and the Waylon Jennings, folks, the older 70s country, Willie Nelson, of course. I really kind of got into that, and it's just songwriting. Those guys are such masterful songwriters, and through that, I really learned an appreciation for bluegrass. Players like Tony Rice and Bela Fleck, and bands like Alison Krauss and Union Station. I mean, these were some of the greatest. I've basically just listed the Miles Davises and John Coltrane's of bluegrass music, they were live, and they were current. They were we lived at that time, so they were contemporary in our lifetime, and so it was very exciting to me to be sort of aware of these amazing artists at the peak of their powers, alive during and contemporary during our lifetime. So I really fell into that whole scene hard, and it was extremely exciting to me. It spoke to me in a way that no music did at that time. And so I taught myself how to play banjo, and I really fell in love with acoustic guitar, and I put everything, I put my rock chops down. I didn't, my vocal delivery became much more, no, I wouldn't say subdued, but I stole what I could from Bob Dylan, and his style, his delivery, his phrasing. And that's it's a much different take on songwriting, and the delivery of those lyrics. But when I got back into rock, I realized that, what I do in the rock world, not everyone can do, because I can really bring it. I sing in a much higher register. I can just really kind of tear it up. And what I do in the Americana world, well, most of the people that play that music do something similar, but not everyone can do what I do in the rock world. So that, to me, I recognized that as more of a special. There was something a little more special about what I do in the rock world, and it just took me a while to sort of remember that and to recognize that.
It's okay. You can say that you were not a fan of nu metal. Not a lot of people weren't. It's okay. It was a and I'm not gonna say that I'm not. Because there's plenty of bands and artists out there that I did like, but it wasn't for everybody. Yeah, and it was ever apparent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like I said, some of them are my friends, and I didn't want to be disparaging. I've been to their homes. I've hung out. We have mutual friends, and it's a very small world.
It definitely is.
Just because it's not for me, I mean, the truth is I don't like much of anything anymore. So why would I single them out? I hate everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Well, I wanted to kind of take this back, just a step back before we get into Reigndance, because I wanted to ask you, as you've kind of talked about your time now, as we've come to your time in folk music, but as the COVID-19 restrictions are lifting, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here.
Hopefully,
yeah.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. I don't have any wood around me, but that's all right. Yeah. That being said, do you feel, though, on a creative end of things, and I've asked this to many artists, but do you really feel that maybe after this COVID-19 restriction has gone and left us, that rock and roll will become the popular culture that it once was? Do you see a renaissance coming back to rock and roll?
I sure hope so. You know, I doubt it, because rock and roll takes a lot of it takes dedication. It takes a level of practice and dedication to learn how to play guitar and to play it well. That I don't know that the just generally speaking. I just hope that the younger generations have an appreciation for it and enough of a drive and dedication to it to actually take that time and practice, because really that's what it's about. I used to teach guitar. I used to teach guitar to kids. I did it for the Burbank Unified School District, and I would tell these kids, some of them were as young as 6 years old, and I would just go, guys and girls, there is nothing that I have that you don't. The only difference between you and me is that I have practiced my guitar. All it takes is practice, and that's all it takes. You need to practice. You need to get good. I mean, obviously, we're talking about just getting to a level that, obviously not everyone can be Eddie Van Halen, and we all know that. But what it really is kids are, no kid wants to put in that level of work on something. This is an age of instant gratification. Maybe 10 years ago, it was all the Rock Band video game was the thing, and nothing upset me more than that, because literally that is the ultimate cheat, because it gives it's like they think they're doing it, and it's not even you're not even doing it even a little. It's a lie. It's not real, and it's a poor substitute. So the whole thing, and that actually was more than 10 years ago. I'm of the age now where everything seems like 10 years ago. No, that was 30 years ago. You know what I mean? But I really hope that the young generation will find an appreciation for rock music, as I found, much unlike my own peers, I found an appreciation for older music that came. I like the music that the bands that I liked growing up like. Yeah. I really dig 50s blues. Yeah. There's nothing in the world that gets me more going than Muddy Waters, than Howlin' Wolf, and those records, those 50s records, and the rock and roll creators, the pioneers of rock and roll, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, nothing makes me happier than listening to those records. I mean, you want a good time? You want a good time? Put on a Little Richard record. It is literally the soundtrack to a good time. And so, that's the kind of stuff that, I really, and I don't expect younger generations to really get that. But if the younger generation can listen to a Rolling Stones album, can listen to Sticky Fingers, can listen to Exile on Main Street, can listen to, the Beatles, Abbey Road, and get something out of it that, even a fraction of what, I got out of it, well, then there might be hope. I wouldn't hold my breath.
Well said. Yeah. Let's kind of discuss. Well, let's not kind of discuss. Yeah. Let's discuss.
I want to get into Reigndance.
Yeah, let's discuss Reigndance. Rockin' band back in the 90s. That band made some fantastic albums. 3. Problem Factory being my favorite. Can you can you discuss the origins of the band and why did that band make the long run?
Sure. Well, yeah, Dean Fertitta and I have known each other since the 4th grade. I moved to town. I moved to Royal Oak, Michigan when in the 4th grade. I don't know how old you are in the 4th grade, probably like
10,
12, 11,
10. Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. Yeah. And we met, and we've been friends ever since. Playing in each other's bands the entire our entire school history. And then in high school, we put a band together with Bob, the drummer, Bob Nick, and then shortly after high school, we met the Ballard brothers, Pete and Dean Ballard, and then Reigndance was formed. We played in Detroit for, the Detroit bar scene I'm talking about, for about a year, and decided, we need to take this to, bigger and better. So we literally picked up and moved to the New York area in 1990, and we're there for maybe we moved there in between 90 and 91, because we lived there for exactly 1 year before I got the Real World gig, and we were playing in the New York area for a long time, for years before, and during that time we met with producer Greg Fry and recorded the Problem Factory album. We recorded that during the filming of the Real World, but we didn't really have the foresight to we had, none of us knew how big the Real World was going to become. And so had we any inkling, we would have really, put the recording process on full blast and maybe, finish the record and to have it, sort of ready by the time the show was done, because as a result, we were, sort of still dicking around for a full year after the after the show was out and didn't have the record out. We probably should have, had all that wrapped up. But we were a young band. Yeah. I was 21 when they shot the Real World, and I was probably 23 when the I was probably 22 when the Problem Factory record came out. It was precious time that was lost in that year, because really that was it was just such a huge explosion. It was a hit. It was a big hit. That show. We toured a lot. As a matter of fact, we when the show came out, instead of going, what we should have been doing was just finishing the album, but instead we toured, and we which was great, and it made us a better band. But in retrospect, it probably would have been. It would have behooved us to finish the record and then tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeff, go ahead.
Can you tell us just a little bit about the sound of Reigndance and what direction you were trying
Sure. So a lot of people. So we had a house in New Jersey, and New Jersey had a sort of a history and a real scene in the in the waning days of pop metal, hair metal, as it's called now. Bands like Bon Jovi and a lot of bands of that era. Skid Row really had a foothold in New Jersey, and we were happy to play that circuit. But we weren't a New Jersey metal band. Similarly, right around the time the Real World broke, another scene came along, the Seattle scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was, obviously Nirvana, Soundgarden, Mudhoney, those kinds of bands. And they had a similar look to what we were running with. And we played a lot of those circuits as well. Again, we were not one of those bands either.
Yeah.
Not just because we didn't come from there. It wasn't really our sound. We had more in common, because we're from Detroit,
Yeah.
we had more in common with Midwestern rock and roll. I would say that Reigndance was much closer to Soul Asylum and maybe even bands like The Replacements than we were like Soundgarden. But we definitely, we had an appreciation for those bands, and we liked, and even the pop metal of that came before it had an appreciation for it. But maybe it was just a funny thing that we were being asked to sort of align ourselves with those scenes, but our music really didn't fit that that thing. What we were doing was much more Midwestern, because that's where we're from.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. Was there any pressure? Was there pressure to try to conform to like the grunge sound?
Not pressure, not anything that I felt, but maybe I think that I was definitely I'm a fan of prototypical 70s heavy metal. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Black Sabbath, early Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Humble Pie, early Kiss. I mean, all of those bands. That's what I grew up listening to, and I think that that's what the Seattle scene was very much sort of springing from. And so I would say that we shared similar influences, but not really a similar style.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. I always looked at grunge music being that cross between like 70s Black Sabbath and punk rock, knocking on each other's doors. That's what it always just felt like to me.
Yeah. Well, I think the bands like Nirvana represented that, but not certainly not everyone. I think that Soundgarden had a lot more of the prog aspect than punk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have one last question. Jeff, do you have any other questions?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So this is my last question. So it wouldn't behoove us if we didn't bring up the Real World. You were a part of the original cast, which has been a part of the reunion on Paramount. Can we talk a little bit about that reunion? But beforehand, what does it feel? What does it feel like to be a part of, I guess, Americana
pop phenomenon?
Yeah, pop culture history as the very first reality TV show.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
Yeah.
It's just crazy, honestly. It's none of us expected this thing to be such a phenomenon, as you mentioned, as really it took off and changed pop culture. What was essentially a very short time in my life, in your early 20s, the earliest of your 20s, 21. Think of any random 3 months of your 20s.
Yeah.
And now think about those 3 months being perpetuated for the next 30 years.
Exactly.
That is my experience. That has been my experience. So it's a crazy thing to be a part of, and to know what the reality TV, what that has done to our culture, in good and bad. It's wild, and it's overwhelming, to be honest with you. For a long time, I didn't even acknowledge it. I had probably in the mid to late 90s, I had a real identity crisis. I went a little crazy. And that could have been part of my decision to give up on rock music altogether and to do something completely different. It was I needed to get away from that. I needed to completely shed that skin. And so, the landscape of reality entertainment changed so much in that time.
It did.
Yeah.
And it's funny when they called, and there have been reunions and things like that I have not participated in over the years, because what they often would do would be bringing multiple casts together and kind of like do a big party. Well, I didn't want anything to do with it, But when they came to me and us, the 7 of us, and said, it's just going to be the original cast. We're going to do it in New York, and it's really going to be about, just the 7 of you. We'll get to reflect on, what our cast did and everything. I said, well, that sounds interesting. I could be, I certainly could be persuaded into, into doing that. I like all of my cast members that we kept in touch over the years, and so I was excited to see everybody, and then my wife, who's considerably younger than I am, she'd never watched The Real World. She'd seen parts of it and pieces, maybe clips here and there, but it was before her time.
Yeah.
So when I was in negotiation for this new series, The Reunion, we sat down and binged it, the whole thing, all 13 episodes. Cool. And I was reminded of actually how good it was, and I was so pleasantly surprised, that what I participated in was actually very substantive, very, the conversations that we had were very socially conscious, and substantive, and it wasn't, say that the subsequent seasons of Real World and reality TV in general had definitely tainted my impression of what I did, and it had left a bitter taste. I had a false impression that what I did was very fluff, and rewatching it, and because I hadn't seen it since the original airing, rewatching it for the first time in 30 years, I was so pleasantly surprised and pleased that what we did was actually quite, as I say, substantive and much more socially conscious than I remembered, and that I had given, credit to it for. So that also helped in my decision to participate in the new series.
Oh, fantastic!
Cool. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I have to say about that is that with the original Real World, it was organic, it was natural, and then everything that came after that was they were trying to replicate something they couldn't replicate,
or scripted.
Yeah, it was more scripted. You just can't replicate what was the original thing. It was just it's amazing.
It was more processed.
Yes,
it just became more processed, and the whole thing just was a little less organic, a little more artificial. The mere fact that the casts kind of knew what to expect,
right,
added to the artifice of it. We were the only ones that were a social experiment. The others were a TV show.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we've come to the end of our allotted time. Before we let you go, is there anything that we did not cover that you wanted to promote or plug?
No, not really. I would say that, I've got a music video for the new single, Clean Break, coming out this Friday.
Oh, cool.
It's exciting. I don't know when this is going to air. Probably not for a couple of weeks, I would imagine.
Right, yeah.
So, by the time this thing comes out, we'll have a video for the single Clean Break that I'm very excited about, and we'll probably be working on our next video by that time.
Nice.
Because what we're going to do is release a bunch of videos and singles. As I was mentioning earlier, that this is the era of singles, and so I'm just going to be putting out a bunch of videos and singles and giving the album life through that medium, a lot of videos.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that, and I just played a week of shows in Texas.
Awesome.
Just got home yesterday, and that's why I'm a little hoarse right now. I haven't sang like that, so many days in a row in a long time. I really gave myself a workout. And I'll be doing that, more and more. I would imagine I'll be doing, hopefully, because these were largely acoustic shows. I'll be, doing shows with the full band as LA and New York open up more broadly. And you guys are in Chicago, is that right?
Yeah, well, about 3 hours west, yeah. About 2.5, 3 hours west.
Okay, so you're in the Midwest. So
yeah, right on the Mississippi River.
Good Midwestern stock.
Yeah.
I would imagine we'll be doing some shows in and around your area as well. I mean, those are the places that are really responding right now. Generally, they're more open.
Yep.
And we're, those are the places that are sort of taking the bait.
Fantastic.
and keep an eye out for us. The band name is my name, Andre Comeau, and the new album is Clean Break.
Fantastic.
Awesome. We look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys.
Yeah, we wish you lots of luck.
Pleasure speaking with you both.
All right. Hey, we'll be in touch with you in about 3 weeks with your episode.
Sounds great. Thanks again.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The Sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts. shade from you.